Check this out. The Arctic Circle hit 101 degrees Fahrenheit Saturday, its hottest temperature ever. 101 degrees Fahrenheit in the Arctic Circle. A little troubling, right? Jesus. This past weekend, a small Russian town in the Arctic Circle hit a scorching temperature of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. While the temperature has to be verified by experts, if it stands, it will be the hottest temperature ever recorded in the Arctic Circle. The small, Russian town of Verkhoyansk, probably butchering that, I apologize, is known for its brutally cold winters and one of the coldest towns on Earth. However, temperatures in recent months have skyrocketed double digits above average temperature. The average high temperature in Verkhoyansk in June is 68 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning this record day was over 30 degrees hotter than average. For reference, the coldest month of the year, Verkhoyansk, is January, where the high is on average minus 44 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes, you read that correct. Negative 44 degrees Fahrenheit is the average high temperature in January. Wow, that would be a little intense to be there in winter, huh? Before this record-breaking high temperature, temperatures in Siberia were on average 18 degrees higher than normal in May. It's obviously not good. The past May broke the record for the hottest May since record keeping. The Arctic Circle, which is defined as anything above 66.5 degrees north latitude, has experienced more extreme warming as a result of climate change than lower latitudes, the tropics. It is well known that the poles warm faster as a result of climate change. For example, the average increase in temperature on Earth over the past 40 years is 1.44 degrees Fahrenheit. In comparison, the Arctic has warmed by more than 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit during that same period, more than double the global average. Wow. And I mean, you think it just kind of exacerbates it because we think, the snow, the ice are located on the poles. As that melts, that's also going to, you would think warm the oceans more as well as contribute to higher sea rise. So it's just this kind of feedback loop of all these bad things that are happening due to, climate change that's caused by all of these, fossil fuels and greenhouse gases and, all that stuff that's from humans, from us, from people. According to NASA's research, Earth poles warm faster than the rest of the planet because of the large-scale energy transport from atmospheric processes. The poles receive their heat from atmospheric and oceanic systems, pushing heat from the tropics to the poles. As warming continues, these systems are exacerbated, bringing disproportionately more heat to the poles. Warming is also increased due to the change in reflectivity, albedo of the poles. As the sea and land ice, which is very reflective, melt and reveal rock and vegetation, which is much less reflective, that makes sense. There's a positive feedback loop that causes the surface to warm, melt more ice, become less reflective, and continue the cycle of warming. A little bit what I was saying, but articulated a little bit better by this author. Thus, those living in the high latitude countries, Canada, Russia, Scandinavia, etc., will experience significantly more warming than those living in the low latitude countries, Brazil, Indonesia, Ecuador, etc. And that's a picture of the snow-covered Verkhoyansk mountains from airplane northern Siberia. The dramatic warming of the Arctic up to triple-digit temperatures was not expected to happen until 2100 from climate change. It's only 2020 right now. But the reality of warming due to climate change has exceeded expectations, as warming, particularly in the poles, has caused record-breaking temperatures in the past. So it's basically, climate change is one of the biggest, existential threats facing the human species, and more or less most of the governments around the world are not taking the necessary steps to combat it. And again, like with most, global issues, it's always going to be the most vulnerable and marginalized people that are affected by this the most. The people, and they say like the global south, poor communities, all around the world. Other marginalized folks are going to be the ones, facing the biggest impacts from climate change. And, that's why, like in the US, we really need things like a Green New Deal, especially, the Green Party's version of it, in order to completely switch to renewable energies. Because, again, if we keep using fossil fuels, whether it's, oil and gas for our cars, or natural gas for heating our homes, or, whatever other fracking, whatever it is, it's going to keep making this problem exponentially worse. And I mean, again, we're already seeing disastrous consequences. 100 fucking degrees in the Arctic Circle in May, whole 30 degrees higher than what the average temperature should be in that part of the Arctic Circle. If that's not troubling and concerning to everybody, I don't know what would be, frankly. So, and that's, I mean, I guess that's, why it's important to try to support politicians that actually are committed to environmental justice, to fighting for things like a Green New Deal and transitioning to a, carbon neutral economy and all that stuff, but also the importance of, civil disobedience, protesting, getting out in the streets, because again, this is one of the huge existential crises facing the human species. And Chomsky likes to point to this, as well as the threat of nuclear war. And as climate change worsens, there's going to be more conflicts between countries over power, over resources, over food, even at some point. So not addressing climate change will have a number of negative consequences. And so that's why it's super, super important that we do everything we can to try to be the change, if you will, I guess.